It is Wednesday, September 27th. From the sidelines to the House floor, Democrats escalating the national anthem debate to a new level.
I was ashamed of what was taking place. I don't think you can disrespect our country, our flag, our national anthem.
And I will call for the impeachment of the President of the United States of America.
Has the NFL become a new tool of the left? We report, you decide.
And help is on the way. U.S. aid ships and aircraft arriving to the storm-damaged shores of Puerto Rico. They continue to arrive. And this morning, the dire situation there reaching a crisis level. How the Trump administration plans to bring some much-needed relief.
And rock icon Steven Tyler seeking immediate care after an unexpected health emergency. The message that the legendary frontman just sent to his fans. Fox and Friends First starts right now.
All right, you're watching Fox and Friends First on this Wednesday morning. I'm Rob Schmidt.
And I'm Heather Childers. But we begin with a Fox News alert for you right away. The Taliban debate rages on. Good morning, Griff.
Good morning, Heather and Rob. The anthem protest has now spread to the House of Representatives, where Democrat Mark Pocan became the second member of Congress to take a knee in solidarity with some NFL players on the House floor.
It's a sign of love of country, a country with a promise that has to be for everyone, regardless of the color of their skin. So I join so many now in the NFL and elsewhere in taking a knee for the America that we all aspire it to be.
Pocan follows Sheila Jackson Lee, who was the first member to kneel, but President Trump doubled down in the Rose Garden on his opposition to NFL players taking a knee, calling it an important situation.
I was ashamed of what was taking place because, to me, that was a very important moment. I don't think you can disrespect our country, our flag, our national anthem. To me, the NFL situation is a very important situation.
And one member of Congress, Representative Al Green, is calling for the president's impeachment over this issue.
I rise to announce that on next week, Mr. Speaker, I will bring a privileged resolution before the Congress of the United States of America. I will stand here in the well of the Congress, and I will call for the impeachment of the President of the United States of America.
Now, this is the second time since July that Green has called for the president's impeachment. And just for the record, guys, sessions of Congress do not open with the national anthem. And finally, back to the Steelers. The NFL, Steelers owner Art Rooney issuing a statement yesterday, further clarifying that his team never intended to disrespect anyone. Guys?
Not over yet.
Okay, Griff, thanks so much.
Although we wish it would be, some of us.
I know.
Well, let's turn to some other news now. The wife of American sniper CHRİS Kyle boldly challenging the NFL to get off its knees in response to the national protest. Taya Kyle writing an open letter to the league, slamming it over its appearance of unity. And, quote, football was really a metaphor for our ideal world, different backgrounds, talents, political beliefs, and histories, as one big team with one big goal, to do well, to win together. You are asking us to abandon what we have loved about togetherness and make choices of division. Kyle also calling on players to fight for their causes off the field instead of just on the sidelines.
All right, conservative radio talk show host Rush Limbaugh weighing in on the anthem protests after tuning in to watch the Dallas Cowboys take on the Arizona Cardinals on Monday night.
We're dealing with liberalism here, and we're dealing with the left, and that's just not how they operate. Everybody knows how much I love the NFL and how bigger than life it's always seemed to me, but it doesn't seem bigger than life. It just seems like a tool now. It has become something being used by the political forces of the left to advance their agenda, which is an anti-American agenda.
Well, that's his take. Limbaugh says the protests are taking the lifeblood out of a game that Americans have loved for years.
Well, President Trump heads to Indiana today to push his tax reform plan aimed at boosting American businesses.
We will cut taxes tremendously for the middle class, not just a little bit, but tremendously.
Several Indiana lawmakers will join the president, including Democrat Senator Joe Donnelly at the event. This after Senator Heidi Heitkamp of North Dakota appeared with the president at a rally earlier this month. You may remember that. Well, the Trump administration will be releasing an outline of the tax relief plan later today.
And we'll talk more about that coming up in the next half hour. More details on that. Anti-establishment candidate Roy Moore getting a big win in the Alabama Senate runoff.
As long as it's constitutional, as long as it advances our society, our culture, our country, I will be supportive.
This is that big race we've been talking about all week, the race to replace the Senate seat that was held by now Attorney General Jeff Sessions. High-profile endorsements on both sides in this race. President Trump backing Moore's opponent, Senator Luther Strange.
The president took a chance. He didn't have to come down. I'm sure he'll be criticized for coming to campaign for me. Sometimes it's more than politics. Sometimes it's about just a friendship, just a common goal to make the country better.
So the man that the president supported did lose there, but the man that people said was more like the president actually won. President Trump tweeting congratulations to Roy Moore on his Republican primary win in Alabama. Luther Strange started way back and ran a good race. Roy win in December, and Moore will now face off against Democrat Doug Jones in December.
And President Trump said that he will campaign for him. So how will Moore's win set the stage for the 2018 midterms?
Yeah, here now to weigh in is the founder of American Majority and former presidential writer for President George W. Bush, Ned Ryan. Thanks so much for coming on this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, guys. Good to be with you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and so this was a big win for Roy Moore. Obviously, he didn't have the backing of the president in a state that, loves the president. How did he pull this off, and what does it mean?
Well, I mean, there are a couple of dynamics that were at play in Alabama. First, this was really about the people of Alabama saying, are we going to let a former corrupt governor and the D.C. establishment pick our senator, or are we? And the second dynamic at play was, this is really a repudiation and a bit of a, rejection of Mitch McConnell's lack of leadership in the U.S. Senate and pushing forward the America First agenda. So if you look at those two dynamics, again, I think if Luther Strange had not accepted that appointment from Governor Bentley,
who he was
I honestly think Luther Strange would have, that's right, Luther Strange would have been a shoo-in last night, and I think that cannot be understated. But I really do think this sets the tone for 2018 in various primaries around the country, because if Mitch McConnell and the D.C. establishment can spend $30 million to try and protect Luther Strange and he loses by double digits, nobody's protected anymore.
So let's take a look at the final tally. Roy Moore, 54.9%, and Luther Strange, 45.1%, won by a margin of over 44,000 votes. Did you expect it to be that wide of a margin? And what does this say? A lot of people were saying that it was Bannon versus President Trump, and Bannon won this round.
This was really, first of all, to the first issue, I really think this was just about Trump voters saying, listen, President Trump, we love you, but we love Roy Moore more. The second point is, I looked yesterday at some poll numbers. I'd actually been calling for a 5 to 6 point Roy Moore win. I actually saw some numbers yesterday, and I bumped it up to 10 or 12 because this was one of those things, and I think it would have been 15 points if President Trump had not come down and rallied on behalf of Luther Strange on Friday.
It certainly was a healthy victory.
It was a healthy victory, but it was one of those things that if you saw the poll numbers and looked at them, you realized Roy Moore was going to win. The only thing I needed the polls were to understand how much he was going to win by. And again, I called a 10 or 12 point win last night.
I just have to ask you, though, real quick, not to cut in, but I mean, I was trying to figure out this whole time, obviously it must have been a request from McConnell or maybe a favor called in to the president that McConnell needed this. He said, go out there and go for our guy, Luther Strange, because everything, it just seems like Trump would have naturally gone behind Roy Moore in this all the way. And everybody was trying to figure out, why does the president like Luther Strange? Because he's not establishment.
That's right. And I think Roy Moore, again, this is a dynamic that President Trump should fully understand. Last year, understanding that people wanted more of an outsider, not a D.C. establishment person. And again, 2016 was all about that, and I think we're seeing that continue to play out. I think, honestly, President Trump got some bad advice. I think hopefully this morning he will wake up and examine who's giving him political advice. But the thing I would tell President Trump is this. do not listen to what I consider the corrupt consultant class who have their own priorities, not his. And so that's one thing that I think Trump moving forward has to understand. There are people in D.C. that do not have his best interests in mind, therefore do not listen to their advice.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. We'll see what happens in the midterms.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Certainly. All right, thank you. All right, no food, no water, no power. A very dire situation in hurricane-ravaged Puerto Rico. This has been happening for days now, growing more desperate by the hour.
Well, the White House now stepping up recovery efforts as President Trump plans a trip to the devastated area. Garrett Tenney joins us with the latest. Garrett.
The Trump administration is increasing its disaster assistance for Puerto Rico, providing more support for debris removal and emergency protective measures. President Trump is set to witness the damage here firsthand when he visits next Tuesday.
We are literally unloading on an hourly basis water, food, supplies. We have our top people from FEMA and our first responders and everybody else.
That announcement came after the president faced some harsh criticism for his response to the crisis. Democratic lawmakers took issue with his string of weekend tweets about the NFL, and one suggesting Puerto Rico's debt contributed to the situation here.
Unfortunately, what we've seen from the White House over the weekend has been a diversion, a distraction to really nonsensical issues.
To the president again, if you don't take this crisis seriously, this is going to be your Katrina.
The 1-2 punch of Hurricanes Irma and Maria devastated the island, which is home to more than 3 million Americans. Basic necessities like food and water are hard to come by, and most of the island is still without power, and there aren't enough generators or diesel fuel to run them.
We have no electricity, we have no water, we have people without the roofs, and we have people without houses.
Military planes are bringing in supplies, but you can see there are still long lines all across San Juan for some of the basic necessities of life: food, water, and gas, and it will still be days before that help can reach some parts of the country. In San Juan, I'm Garrett Tenney, Fox News.
Well, the time now is about 11 minutes after the top of the hour, and it became the rallying cry for President Trump's campaign.
Build that wall, build that wall, build that wall.
We've heard it over and over, and now it is happening. We will take you inside the construction of the southern border wall.
And remember the passenger dragged off of a flight because it was overbooked? What a mess this was. Well, the airline that now wants passengers to bid to avoid something like this. We'll explain.
And from Super Bowl champ to senator, have you heard about this rumor? Peyton Manning could soon have a new title, and social media apparently loves it.
All right, a milestone reached in one of President Trump's biggest campaign promises.
We will begin working on an impenetrable, physical, tall, powerful, beautiful southern border wall.
He loves this wall. Crews officially breaking ground to start building border wall prototypes in California, where, of course, they can't stand the idea. Jackie Ibanez here with a first look at what we're talking about. Hey, Jackie.
Hey, good morning, Rob. A welcome sight for Trump supporters all across America. Dump trucks, front loaders, and construction crews out in full force just yards from the U.S.-Mexico border in San Diego County. Over the next 30 days, 6 companies will build a total of 8 wall models. Half of them will use concrete, and the others will use a variety of materials, we're told. Now, once they're complete, the Department of Homeland Security will run specific tests to find which one will work best for the more than 2,000-mile southern border.
The wall prototypes will be between 18 and 30 feet tall and designed to deter illegal entries. The prototypes will inform future designs and influence the standards which will likely continue to evolve with the U.S. Border Patrol's requirements.
Congress is now working to pass nearly $2 billion to start funding the wall for what the chief of the Border Patrol deems fully necessary in the fight to protect our borders.
Having worked for 29 years along the border, it has been a constant evolution. Here in San Diego, we are arresting over 500,000 people, illegal entrants a year. With the implementation of border infrastructure, technology, and personnel, that is reduced dramatically.
An area of roadway by the construction site has been blocked off as a free speech zone for people who want to peacefully protest there. San Diego County officials have banned all weapons in anticipation of possible protests. President Trump says he intends to pick the winning prototype himself, and as the head of the executive branch, he does have the authority to award government contracts. Heather, Rob, here we go.
And just remember that all the protesters out there, President Obama, then Senator Obama, and Hillary Clinton both voted for a border wall back in 2006. So that is the interesting thing for everybody that's going to protest the wall. Jackie, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Well, the national anthem protests are now moving from the football field to Capitol Hill as a second Democrat takes a knee on the House floor.
Join so many now in the NFL and elsewhere in taking a knee for the America that we all aspire it to be.
Well, these supposed calls to action are also being followed by even louder calls for impeachment. And joining me now to weigh in is Fox News political analyst and the founder of Caldwell Strategic Consulting, Gianno Caldwell. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me, Heather.
So the first question is, what is the point now? I mean, we began with Colin Kaepernick, and he had 1 point. But is the point now to protest Donald Trump, and are we losing the initial message in all of this?
It absolutely is. And I'll tell you, Heather, NFL players are taking the lazy way out. And I say that because if the original intent was to protest racism, which we can thank the Democratic Party for giving us institutional racism, then they would have been on the Hill with me and the leaders of the 2020 Leaders of America last week as we were going across Capitol Hill lobbying people like Senator Chuck Grassley in favor of criminal justice reform. At this particular point, this has become nothing more than an anti-Trump demonstration, and it's very problematic. Because at this point in our country where there's division seemingly everywhere, we need time to get together, and time to get together generally is usually when it comes to watching the NFL and other sports teams.
So in essence, the Democrats are doing a disservice to the message of racism in America by taking it over and making it about Donald Trump instead. In terms of the divisions, you know, people blaming President Trump, people blaming the football players, people blaming Democrats. Who's responsible and who can change it?
You know, what's interesting in terms of this protest, now we have to be very honest, President Trump has made this a lot worse than it initially was, and him putting his name in a hat with this has caused a bit of a stir. And I think one thing President Trump has to realize is he is the president. He's no longer a celebrity in general where he puts his voice in these issues and make them even bigger.
Yeah.
I think when it
Along
comes
with
to
the language that he used as well.
Exactly. That SOB language, I think, was rather disgusting in my view. But in this particular scenario, the message has been completely hijacked, and now it's completely and totally a anti-Trump demonstration, whether we're talking about on Capitol Hill with people like Sheila Jackson-Lee, who says she's in favor of criminal justice reform, but according to sources on Capitol Hill, every time there's a bill that comes up that can make some incremental changes, she's generally speaking against it, especially if it's a Republican proposing that language.
So how do we end this, Gianna? That's what I keep asking. You know, is the media also perpetuating the story? We keep talking about it, and it seems to be spreading. How do we end it?
You know what's interesting? I was on air with Neil Cavuto the other day, and we were discussing the church shooting, which no one heard about unless you turned on Fox News. That was the only way you heard about it, because the media wants to perpetuate. Whatever is going to be a distraction, whatever is going to divide us more is what they want to focus on, not the things that really impact our country and the individuals within it. So
Gianna, I have to wrap you up. Thank you for joining us.
Very good.
Hard break. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Football fans angry over the national anthem protest, and there are a lot of them, could be getting some cash back.
Isn't that interesting? Tracy Carrasco from our sister network Fox Business here to explain how this works. Hey, Tracy.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, DirecTV is letting customers who are upset about all of this national anthem drama cancel their Sunday ticket to watch these games. Now, this is a pricey ticket. It's about $280. Normally, they don't let people cancel, but because of this, they are letting some people cancel. It could really hurt them in the long run. And then also, you know, viewership is down. Nielsen ratings say it's down 11% so far this season. That's compared to last year. Yes.
Okay.
Well, speaking of saving money, or is it more expensive or less expensive? I don't know. I don't drink orange juice. $7 orange juice?
Pretty pricey.
Yes, you know, even if you were not in Florida directly impacted by Hurricane Irma, you could be impacted if you drink orange juice. That's because 30 to 70% of the crop there was destroyed by the hurricane. So you're going to be paying more, about $2.30 more a gallon for orange juice, which could hike up the price all the way up to $7. Now, our only hope right now is Brazil. If they can import some of their oranges here, then we can, you know, hopefully the prices will go down.
Yeah, hopefully. I love orange juice. You're getting into the time of the year where we need it, too.
Yeah.
And finally, the geniuses at the airlines have figured out that you don't just throw somebody off the plane, you know, if they don't take $1,000 to book another flight. I can't believe it took them this long to figure this out after what happened. But they're now saying you can bid on a price. If you got to get booted, the highest bidder gets to leave. Or explain it to us. I'm not saying it right.
So this is all, as you said, you know, in response to that now infamous video we saw of that United passenger. So United is letting passengers make a bid. How much will it take you to get off of this overbooked flight? Delta already has something in place like this, and they're testing it out, see how it goes, and then they'll soon roll it out. But hopefully it'll go better than that video.
Yeah.
Jeez, I mean,
no more scenes like that.
No.
Couldn't believe it when that happened. All right, Tracy, thanks so much.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
All right, 26 minutes after the hour, professional athletes taking a knee during the national anthem. Do they really know what they're protesting?
I don't think they know the story of the flag. I don't think they know about this Iwo Jima memorial. And children become adults and they act out different roles in society, and we're seeing the result of that.
Why these players may want a history lesson before they disrespect our nation's flag.
Welcome back to Fox and Friends First, and a Fox News alert is where we begin. The Taliban claiming responsibility for a rocket attack targeting Defense Secretary James Mattis while on a trip to Afghanistan. You're looking at some new video of the airport in Kabul. That is where Fox News has learned that nearly 50 rockets were launched shortly after Mattis left. He had left the scene. It is being reported that only 6 rockets landed near the airport and there were no casualties.
And most importantly, the Defense Secretary did get off safely and get out of Afghanistan. This was his first trip to Afghanistan since the president announced a new military strategy there. And of course, we're still getting information coming in on this story. Stay with Fox and Friends as this breaking story does develop.
But right now, from the sidelines to the House floor, back at home, the Take a Knee protest and backlash is intensifying.
This is tensions escalate nationwide. President Trump not backing down, instead ramping up his fight against the NFL.
And Griff Jenkins live in our nation's capital, where the free speech debate rages on. Good morning, Griff.
Good morning, Heather and Rob. Yes, the House of Representatives now are taking the knee. Wisconsin Democrat Mark Pocan became the second member to do so on the House floor.
It's a sign of love of country, a country with a promise that has to be for everyone, regardless of the color of their skin. So I join so many now in the NFL and elsewhere in taking a knee for the America that we all aspire it to be.
Pocan follows Sheila Jackson Lee, who was the first member to kneel, but President Trump doubling down in the Rose Garden on his opposition to the players taking a knee, calling it an important situation.
I was ashamed of what was taking place because, to me, that was a very important moment. I don't think you can disrespect our country, our flag, our national anthem. To me, the NFL situation is a very important situation.
And it didn't stop with kneeling. One member of Congress, Representative Al Green of Texas, is calling for the president's impeachment over this issue.
I rise to announce that on next week, Mr. Speaker, I will bring a privileged resolution before the Congress of the United States of America. I will stand here in the well of the Congress, and I will call for the impeachment of the President of the United States of America.
Now, for the record, this is the second time since July that Green has called for the president's impeachment. So, guys, we certainly haven't heard the last of this issue.
Definitely not. All right. Thank you so much, Griff.
Griff, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, so the big question is, how many people in this country, what do they think? Do they think that you should be allowed to kneel for the anthem, or do they think you should stand?
Yeah, the majority of people, as you might expect, 64% of Americans say that NFL players should stand for the national anthem, and that maybe the others need a history lesson.
That's right. It reminds me so much of the monument debacle that we went through maybe a month or two ago, where everybody wanted to tear down all of these national monuments, and I think it was more understanding of people that anything that was for a Confederate leader was understandable. But then they started talking about taking down monuments of people like George Washington and others like Madison who owned slaves,
and changing the names of
and people were resoundingly against that.
Yeah. The other thing is that we talked about yesterday too. Back in 2009, I find it ironic that the Obama administration paid the National Football League to be patriotic. They had to stand for the national anthem then because they were getting money, but now they want, this to happen. And it's not equal on both sides, as you were saying.
Exactly. That's very right. That's very true. Let's look at another poll here. Is the national anthem at a game the right place to protest? 60% there is a more appropriate place to protest. 31% say they support the right to free speech and to do whatever you want, even during our national anthem. 9% unsure, didn't want to touch it, as you might expect.
Well, and now it seems that the whole message has been hijacked by Democrats, so perhaps there is a different place if these football players do want to continue with this purpose of, raising awareness of racism in America, do it somewhere else.
Right, and there was a great soundbite last night on Special Report with Brett Baer. Here's Bill Bennett, former Education Secretary.
I'll put my education secretary hat on and say, I don't think people know American history. I don't think they know the story of the flag. Francis Scott Key, Frank Key, watching that flag as the British battered it all night long and it was still standing. I don't think they know about this Iwo Jima memorial over there where those guys are putting the flag up on Mount Suribachi. And I don't think they know, unless they saw the movie Glory, about that Sergeant William Carney who would not, born a slave, part of the 54th Massachusetts, would not let the flag fall to the ground. I always bring a lot of things back to the schools, what we teach, but Plato said the single most important thing is who gets to teach the children and what do they teach them. And children become adults and they act out different roles in society, and we're seeing the result of that.
Very true. And people they actually think they don't need to learn these lessons because they can Google it. You can just Google it these days.
Very true. And it was a great point. Who is teaching our kids?
Absolutely.
Isn't that the scariest thing of all?
Yeah. Well, it will continue, no doubt.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, the Department of Homeland Security is expanding the kinds of information that it collects on immigrants, including social media and internet search data. Starting next month, all social media history, including Facebook posts and Google, as we mentioned, will be searched. This will apply to not only recent immigrants, but also green card holders and naturalized citizens as well. It goes into effect October 18th.
All right, women in Saudi Arabia just given a green light to drive just now. The foreign ministry posting the royal decree on Twitter, writing, quote, King Salman issues order allowing women to drive. It took this long. It's incredible. President Trump commending the change, calling it a, quote, positive step. That law will go into effect in June. Amazing.
Well, this sure beats a yellow cab. Dubai testing out the world's first unmanned, do you want to try this, flying taxi? Yes.
Wait till they start bumping into each other. The two-seater can fly for 30 minutes at up to 60 miles per hour, powered by clean electricity and engineered to fly very quiet. No word yet on when the public can step on board, but
looks like a giant drone.
It does look like a big drone helicopter kind of thing. What a crazy idea.
It's like the Jetsons.
That's right.
They're here. Janice Dean joins us now to talk about the weather. So, Janice, what do you think about that?
What, the Jetsons thing?
Yeah.
I love the Jetsons. Bring it on.
What happens when two hit each other and then they just drop to the ground?
Come on.
Then you're
Where's
in
your
trouble.
sense of adventure, Rob?
Yeah,
Come on.
I'm not that adventurous.
You and me, let's go up there and try that out.
All right.
Okay, we're still talking about Maria, but the good news is Maria's almost out of here, and we're not talking about a hurricane anymore. Thank goodness. Tropical storm. Still looking at rip currents, high surf. Do not go in the water if you're not a seasoned swimmer. And then we're going to be saying goodbye to Maria, but look. Hello, Lee. The good thing about Lee is going to remain out to sea. Bye-bye, Lee. Let's look at your forecast. Very warm across the eastern half of the country. That's going to end today. Chicago, 7 straight days of record-setting highs. That's going to end today with 73 degrees. We're looking at the potential for showers, thunderstorms across the southwest into parts of Texas. Southeast Texas remains dry, but we're going to see the potential for flash flooding, unfortunately, for South Texas up towards Oklahoma City. And then the temperatures are going to drop. So 83 in New York. Watch this. 76, 70, 67 on Saturday. So here comes fall. I don't know. What do you think?
I listen to that and I think the leaves will be changing, and that's beautiful.
I like that.
Yes.
What about you, Rob? You're a summer guy.
It's the best time of the year. I mean, I love summer, but fall's the best.
I like it.
All right, Janice,
nice
thanks
to
so much.
see you guys.
Thanks.
38 minutes after the hour, Taya Kyle, wife of American sniper CHRİS Kyle, slamming the NFL players, claiming they're protesting for unity. Your social media comments pouring in on this story.
And listen to this. Birth control being sold in vending machines of the college where students say that it's actually necessary.
Plus, the former Democratic IT staffer accused of stealing American secrets now has a new target to blame, and that is his child's homework. We'll explain. All right, welcome back. Remember Ethan Couch right here, the affluenza teen who was let off easy on manslaughter charges after he said he was too rich to know any better after he killed people while drunk driving. Well, now a similar case in England causing some outrage. 24-year-old Lavinia Woodward, seen here, showing nothing but smiles as she walks out of court after a judge called her too bright for jail. The Oxford University student, an aspiring surgeon, walking free after stabbing her boyfriend during an alcohol and drug-fueled frenzy. The judge allowing her to take a course instead of going to jail in order to save her chances for a medical career because clearly she's too smart to end up in prison. Heather?
I wasn't too smart to do that. Well, first NFL players and now kids are joining the national anthem protests. About 140 high school and middle school students in the Oakland, California honor band taking a knee before playing. The students even blaming President Trump.
They bash NFL players, but not call out, neo-Nazis for their violence.
Well, the band first taking a knee last year when Colin Kaepernick started the protest. Well, the wife of American sniper Taya Kyle has a message for the NFL, and she's not holding back.
That's right. Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7, Sirius XM 115, here with her very powerful response for the NFL players taking a knee.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. This is the Facebook post that has everyone talking about today. We've seen a lot of different groups of people respond to the NFL's national anthem protest. Some people are applauding it. Others are so angry that they're burning their NFL gear. And now the wife of late Navy SEAL CHRİS Kyle, Taya Kyle, has responded in an open letter to the NFL urging players to get off their knees. Now, here is a direct quote. Football was really a metaphor for our ideal world. Different backgrounds, talents, political beliefs, and histories as one big team with one big goal, to do well, to win together. She goes on to urge the NFL to stop focusing on anger and division and start playing ball. So her words are going viral online. One Twitter user called it the best response that she's ever seen to the NFL failure. Mike also chimed in saying, your family continues to lead by example and give to this country. Amazing. Ginger on Twitter also called her response amazing, and she said that there's so much truth in the letter, and she says blessings to you. Her husband will never be forgotten. If you want to read that whole letter, you can find it on her official Facebook page, also on foxnews.com. Who better to listen to and learn by than her in this instance?
Absolutely.
She deserves to have an opinion on this.
Yeah, and our very own Brett Baer was helping to spread this online yesterday about Peyton Manning. Yes.
Yeah, you know, what's Peyton Manning been up to these days? That's the big question. You know, this guy has had the initials QB in front of his name his whole life. But what about the letters S-E-N? Senator. So after news broke that Tennessee Senator Bob Corker will be retiring after his term, Peyton Manning's name was actually floated as a possible replacement. Now, Tennessee Congressman Scott DeJarle added fuel to that fire by saying, well, maybe Peyton Manning might not be interested in 2018, but he could be interested in 2020. So you know social media and Brett Baer is going to be responding to this. Christian says, does that mean Tennessee will get discounted Papa John's? And then Kyle said that this phrase should be said in the nationwide jingle voice. So I guess he wants us to read it as Peyton Manning, Senator. Got a nice little ring to it, right?
Is there any basis for this? Did he ever say anything about politics? Or
No, not that we know, but maybe Scott DeJarle has a little inside information. He told
had me all excited, like he was really already in. All right.
Yeah, I was thinking announcer. My husband thought maybe coach. Never thought politics.
Oh, coach would be good.
And speaking of Twitter, the president probably very happy this morning because he's going to get some more space on Twitter,
Yeah,
right?
good news for people with a whole lot to say. So Twitter made a big announcement saying that they are possibly expanding the character limit from 140 characters, that's the historical amount of characters that you're allowed to tweet in, to 280. So right now, they're just testing this out with a small group of people. But, of course, people on Twitter have some big opinions on this. People don't like change, so a lot of people are complaining, leading Ben to say this. For everyone complaining about Twitter expanding to 280 characters, you know you don't have to use them all, right? So he's got a pretty good point there. Another Twitter user says, with 280 characters on Twitter now, expect autobiographies. It does seem like a pretty big amount of letters, but I kind of like this idea, because have you ever had the perfect tweet, but you're just like 3 characters off?
Yeah,
you
but
got to go back and delete spaces and
Right,
stuff.
but people won't just do 3 characters.
Right.
They're just going to be these long tweets now.
It'll be worse than Facebook, which
Yeah,
is
it takes
rants
away
and
the
complaints
point
all
of
the
Twitter.
time.
Facebook, absolutely.
Carly,
All right, guys.
thanks so much. Let's go over to Steve now, see what's coming up on Fox and Friends.
Good morning.
I only send emojis, usually happy faces or a thumbs up. Just saying. All right, coming up on Fox and Friends, Florida Congressman and former Army Ranger, who's also a double amputee, Brian Mast, the congressman from Florida, is going to join us. He posted that powerful Facebook photo in response to the NFL protests. Says the protesters should already be gone. And we have a big show. Today, the guests include Kellyanne Conway, special advisor to the president, and the Attorney General for the United States of America, Jeff Sessions. A busy 3 hours kicks off 12.5 minutes from right now, right here on the channel you trust for your morning news. Fox and Friends first, back in a couple of minutes.